Welcome back to Defending at Utah Television. I am Ben McClintock from defendingatutah.org. And today we have a guest with us. We have Siri Davidson. And something really interesting happened to Siri, and she reached out to us, and we appreciate her for doing so. She's done some really brave things, and with this brave action, she's received some pretty tough consequences. And so we want to have her tell her story. Basically, just kind of starting off, and maybe you can correct us, but just kind of introduce the subject. You were just passing somebody a piece of paper that talked about masks and mask opt-out, and you were fired. So that's just kind of the intro to get people's appetite wet. But just kind of introduce yourself. Tell us what the school that you worked for, and what you did for them, and then we can kind of start getting into what in the heck happened.
Okay. So I'm a mother of 5, and I've homeschooled for the last 4 years, and we were going to go to school this year. And I was working with the school district since last year. I drove school bus for them. It's Merritt College Preparatory Academy in Springville. And I drove school bus last year and everything was fine. And then this year, when I told them in March that I was no longer going to drive the school bus, once they essentially shut down my job, I didn't have a job. I told them I wasn't going to drive school bus anymore, and I was going to work in the kitchen full time with the chef. Because that way I'd be able to take my children to school, I'd be able to bring them home, and I wouldn't be working before and after school. So that was the plan. Well, the night before school started, the administrator who's in charge of transportation approaches me and says, I really need a bus driver for tomorrow. I have no bus driver in the PM route. And he's like, will you please do it? And I wasn't excited about the option because that pushes my kids off and they have to wait. I said, well, the only way I could see it would work is if my kids had a bus pass and they were able to ride our bus south home to my home so that they don't have to wait for me after school. Long story short, that worked out. We were able to drive the kids home the first day, but when I got on the bus to drive, I was not happy. So I get there like 20 minutes early so that I can check the bus. And when I checked the bus, it was so hot. I got in my car, I drove to the closest hardware store, I bought a thermometer and drove back to the school. Because I was like, this is not safe. This is not safe at all. This is way too hot. And so I taped the thermometer on the bus. And I watched the little thing go up. And it was 106.
Inside the bus.
Inside the bus before we pulled out of the parking lot.
And is the bus is not, I've never ridden a school bus. Do they not have air conditioning?
Some districts that have a lot of money and a lot more students, they have air conditioned buses. But because we're a charter, we're smaller, we do not have air conditioned buses now.
Holy cow. Okay.
So that was the temperature sitting in the parking lot waiting for the children to get on. And I'm thinking in my mind, this is not safe. Like, this is not a good idea. Have these children get on the bus with a mask on. So as they came on the bus and they all got seated, I mean, the majority all had their masks on, right? Because they just walked out of the school. So I said, like I've always done in the past, I stood up and I said, I need to make an announcement today. I want you all to listen. I said, every single person on here is an American and they have rights. The Constitution guarantees you your rights. I said, if you would like to wear a mask on the ride home, that's fine. You're welcome to do so. I said, if you do not want to wear a mask on the ride home, I encourage you to take your mask off now. Whatever it is that you choose, it's your health. You get to make that decision. And so those kids that were interested in wearing a mask left their mask on. And those that didn't took their mask off. And I jumped in the seat and buckled up and we took off. We were good to go. Yeah. And so every single stop where we had to let kids off, I had a student take a picture of their thermometer. And it started at 106 and it went down slowly to 104 and then 102. And it remained there the entire trip.
So most comfortable temperature in the bus for that trip was 102 degrees.
102 degrees.
That's
and
insane.
That was after driving on the freeway for 25 minutes back to the school.
With the windows open, probably.
With the windows, all of them down.
That's crazy.
Yeah. It was exhausting to me because it was so hot. My back was sweaty. It was miserable. It was extremely hot. Sure. I think the temperature outside was like 103 or something.
And with the mask, I mean, normally, say, hey, kids, tough it up. We didn't have We didn't have air conditioning when I was a kid in the 1950s or whatever. What people, some listeners might be saying. But if you compound that, they're not used to it, so they're not acclimated to that, so it is kind of different. And then B, you add a mask to that situation, and it's a completely different story.
I just didn't feel like it was safe.
Sure.
I
Yeah.
didn't want to have to pull the bus over to deal with an emergency when you stop the bus, the heat just goes up.
Well, you've seen a lot of news stories about people actually passing out while
Passing
driving
out
because they
while
were wearing a
driving.
mask. So we don't want to see that. You don't want to have a health issue, a medical emergency while driving these kids home.
No, that is the last thing I want.
Yeah. Okay. So you've dropped them all off?
I dropped each kid off at their stop, and they were so happy to get off. But I have to note that the children who actually wore a mask, I would say of the 90% of the kids on the bus, there was only 10% that wore a mask. And of that 10%, almost every single one of them, maybe one Hispanic, and the other children were all Asian.
Okay.
They were the only ones that chose to wear the mask. But this is what was significant. So it wasn't just their face that was red. It wasn't just that they looked hot. Their necks were splotchy and red. And I thought, man, if I could temp those kids, I would not want to know how hot they are, because they looked like they had been exercising for an extended
period. They could almost get
time.
like a false positive on the temperature little.
For sure.
Going on.
Yeah. I had no clue how warm they were, but they looked like they were melting. Gotcha. And they were fanning themselves the whole ride. That's how hot they were.
Yeah. Over 100 degrees.
Yeah.
Okay. So you dropped them all off. What kind of happened? What kind of tell us what happened next?
So I took off and I drove south on the freeway till I got back to Springville. And when I got there, I had to clean the bus. So I start in the back and I spray down all the seats, and then I wipe the seats as I go. So I was able to take my mask off at that point. I didn't wear a mask the whole time, but I took my mask and put it away because I was like, there's no way I'm wearing a mask cleaning this bus.
Especially nobody else around you. Who cares?
Yeah. And so I'm cleaning all the seats, and there's quite a few. It's a larger bus. There's probably, I don't know, a capacity close to 100. So it's a 40-foot bus. By the time I had finished cleaning the bus, the temperature on the bus was 110. And I was just soaking wet. I was just sweating like crazy. So I didn't feel well. Like I was like, oh, I don't feel so good. Like I feel really lightheaded and weak. And so I went to the kitchen where the chef is at, and she's like, you look horrible. She's like, get in the refrigerator quick. So we put me in the refrigerator to cool me off because I was so hot.
Yeah.
I spent 10 minutes in there just to try to cool down.
These poor kids, it just must be even just crazier.
Yeah. Especially if they had to walk from the bus stop, because some of them have to walk a ways to get home. Right. They're not dropped off right in front of their homes.
So was this an issue? This wasn't what got you fired, was it?
No, I was threatened to be fired.
So what happened? So how did they discover that you, like, were they upset? Did something happen? Did a parent report you? So the school found out you let the kids take their masks off. How did that transpire?
I don't know exactly how they found that out. I don't know if some parent called in and complained. Mm-hmm. But when I got to the office the following day, they're like, would like to speak with you. And so they brought me in and they sat me down and they said, did you tell the kids they didn't have to wear a mask? I said, no. I told the children they got to make the choice. It's their body. They get to choose if they want to wear the mask or not. And they were like, that's not our policy. I said, well, I'm the bus driver and I make the rules on the bus. For safety, it seemed like the most logical thing to do. So they reprimanded me, saying that if you don't wear that mask 100% of the time, then you can't drive the bus. And if you're not going to do and follow the procedures and promote this within the school on the bus, then we're not going to let you drive the bus. And I'm like, I'm doing you the favor. What are you talking about here?
You're not going to let me drive the bus? Okay, great. I didn't want to in the first place.
I was like, you're trying to like kick me in the shins when I just did you a favor. Please explain how that works. I don't understand.
And they didn't threaten to fire you. They just threatened to take you off the bus route. There was no there's no letter when you sign up to become an employee that says XYZ, never talk about the mask, never do this,
never signed anything, never said I'd wear a mask, nothing.
And the only warning here was, if you don't wear a mask, you can't drive the bus. That was the extent of the warning.
Yes.
So
if you don't wear a mask, you can't drive the bus. And I said, well, what are you going to do with the kids?
Oh, good.
I asked them, I was like, what are you going to do with the kids that need a ride home? I mean, there's parents at work that can't come get their kids.
Right.
They're like, we'll just figure something else out. It's not your concern. And I was like, well, you kind of made it my concern when you coerced me into driving the bus.
Right.
So
Interesting. So you understand that we have audio we want to share with our listeners of just kind of introduce this thing. What led to the principal talking about him not caring about the temperature in the bus, and what did he say?
well, he was more concerned about following the mandate and policy over people. And I thought, common sense dictates that you make a different choice.
Right.
It's not policy over people when you're putting people's lives at risk, literally at risk. I mean, uh, I I just didn't feel like it was safe to do that to the kids. I didn't think their parents would appreciate it. I'm sure that if you get a virus and you get sick and you get over it, that's one thing. But if you die, you don't come back.
Right.
If your bus driver wrecks and you get hurt, that's on the school.
And not a single kid has died from COVID. So you're
No.
seeing the risk as being higher for the heat stroke.
Yes,
Problem.
absolutely.
Yeah.
For sure. And you know how many of those kids are dehydrated? I can't even tell you. There are so many kids that are dehydrated because they're not drinking water during the school day. All
Drinking
the
pop
drinking
at
fountains
the
are turned
best.
off.
Yeah.
All the
Oh,
drinking fountains are turned off.
oh my goodness. That's crazy.
So if they don't have a water bottle, they can't get water
Wow.
unless they go to the sink in the bathroom and lap it out of the sink.
Nasty.
I mean, how else are they going to get water?
Right.
I've had my kids come to me at the end of the day and say, Mom, I am so dehydrated. I had no water today. And I'm thinking, okay, you know better than that. But they're like, I forgot my water bottle, Mom. And I'm thinking, you couldn't go to the kitchen and ask for a cup or anything?
Yeah, really. And how often do kids do that? I mean, they're always doing that. I forget, the kid forgets the jacket, forgot
So
my
I work in the
lunch, forgot
kitchen.
this.
I've only seen 2 kids come to the kitchen and ask for a cup, and they were to the point where they were like, I need water. Like it
Right.
wasn't, but that's very uncommon. My child's not going to go to the kitchen and ask for a cup.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, so yeah, they forget their water bottles often. It's true.
Okay. So was it the principal that said this, or who was the person
So
that?
yeah, the director, his
Okay.
name is Jesse Meeks.
Is that the equivalent of a principal, or what's that mean to
Yes,
be the
that's the
director?
equivalent of a principal.
Okay, gotcha. So the director.
So he was expressing to me that he didn't care how hot it was on the bus, that the mandate was to be followed, and I was to enforce it. And I was like flabbergasted.
Wow. Let's take a second right here and let's listen to that real quick. We'll pause.
Okay.
Okay, that's enough spot. Okay, go ahead. Act like we listened to it.
Okay. So I couldn't believe it. I literally was upset that he would say that.
That's crazy. I can't imagine.
It's irrational.
Somebody's more concerned about following some make-believe law that's not even legal in the first place than actually keeping kids safe. I mean, can you imagine, like, if there was, I mean, this is child abuse, but what if they were more obvious in their child abuse? What if there was a mandate that says you've got to, beat all the kids in the school? I mean, it'd be insane.
I mean, I look at the school and it is abuse. There's no doubt about it.
That's crazy. So they reprimand you. They said, if you do this, you can't drive the bus. And you're like, whatever, that's no skin off my back.
Yeah,
And
really.
you're going back to, and so you said about 5 days later, this escalated to the next step. Kind of tell us about that.
Yes. So I was at school. I was just doing my job. And I had this piece of paper that I got from a rally. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to share this with some coworkers and see what they think. The paper says, this notice is formalized by opt out of wearing a mask on school property. And I was like, I love that. That sounds just like me. I said, I'm interested in that. So I brought the form to school. It's not signed. It's not dated. And I wanted to talk to some coworkers and see what they thought. What was your opinion about this? Have you ever heard of this? And I shared it with, I believe, 2 or 3 individuals only.
Mm-hmm.
And it was interesting how they expressed their feelings. I expressed my feelings. We just had a little discussion. And I want to say 1 or 2 of them took the paper after we're done talking about it, because they're like, I'm going to read over this. I'm going to look this up. And so they took the paper. And then later that day, after I had finished all my jobs for the day, all my work, I was told by the administrator in charge of the kitchen, he said, I need to see you in my office.
But leading into this, you hadn't like encouraged it. You hadn't said, let's organize, let's make sure you sign this. It was all, it was just simply, isn't this interesting? What do you think about it?
Yeah, I thought, I mean, if this is a valid option, this is a good option.
Sure. Yeah.
That was my opinion. And I thought, I think other people should know about this option. So I only talked to literally 2 or 3 people. And I said, you know what? Tell me what you think about that. And they thought about it. And some of them just held the paper. And anyway, long story short, I get this walk by, I need to talk to you in my office. And I'm thinking, no, that's not good. Like, that wasn't a, hi, would you like to come to my office? I'd like to talk to you. It was more like, you're in big trouble. You know, the principal office type of mentality.
Yeah.
Like, you're coming to my office because we're going to talk. And so I went to his office thinking nothing of it, just thinking that, I don't know, I didn't know what I had done wrong. And so I get in there, and within the first 30 seconds of me sitting in his office, he tells me I'm fired. And I was blown away. I was like, wait, what? You're going to fire me? And I was like, but why? What is the reason? And so he pulls out this piece of paper that was folded up into little pieces and hands it to me. And he says, did you distribute this to your employees? And I said, I don't have any employees. I said, my coworkers? I said, my coworkers? And he says, yeah, your coworkers. Did you give this to someone? I said, yeah, we were discussing it. Was there a problem with that? And he said, that is not acceptable. He said something along the lines that that my philosophies didn't line up with the school's philosophies, and that because of my insubordination, I was terminated.
How is that insubordination if you didn't do anything against nobody told you couldn't do it, so there's not insubordination. It's just
I was blown away. I was like,
having a discussion. Since when is asking questions and having a discussion insubordination? I mean, if you went around saying, look how stupid the principal is for making, yelling at me, that kind of stuff, right? He yelled at me for, talking to the kids about masks on the bus. If that might, complaining, that might be insubordination, but just saying, hey, look at this flyer.
Yeah,
there's no amount of imagination that can say that that's insubordination. It's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, they're not even my words. I was just discussing them with someone.
Right.
So I don't know. I don't know if they had this in the back of the mind. Oh, she's such a rebel. She's going to create a big problem for the school. I don't know what they were thinking, but they're willing to let me go.
Insubordination is just crazy. It would have been almost better for them to just say nothing, because now that they've actually said the reason why you're fired, they've got something that can be used against them, because, you're allowed to hire and fire whoever you want for whatever reason. And so you just keep your mouth shut and say, you're no longer the right fit for this company. Bye-bye. And then that's the end of it. But because he told you it was insubordination, and he showed you the flyer that he felt was insubordination, now seems like he could be set up for a lawsuit, or for actually, because he's actually in violation of the law, because even though it's a charter school, it's still a government school, and he's got to follow the law, which is the Constitution, state and federal.
Yeah. So he gave me, I said, I'd like to see what part of what part of the policy have I broken? What part where have I gone wrong? What is it that I did that's wrong? And so he printed me out a little policy thing, a little message that has highlighted section that says, this is what you did wrong. And I still don't see where I'm in violation.
On the paper. So he went through that, and there was nothing specific that you had done that fit the criteria on that paper.
Well, no. Failure to demonstrate an acceptable attitude in the workplace. I'm like one of the most positive people. I don't see how that would.
And you got to at least have a warning that's specific, because the warning before just said, if you do it on the bus, it had nothing to do with outside anything else. If they had just said, don't talk about the mask to anybody ever again, okay, but they were very specific in saying on the bus.
Yeah. And I mean, they're telling me that if you wear the mask in the kitchen, you're fine. But I'm an American. I have the right to freedom of speech, and I reserve that right.
Sure.
I feel like I can speak to people about what I want to speak to people about. We are in a Center for Education and Learning. So I received the flyer, and I thought, wow, wouldn't that be great?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be ideal?
So what day was this that you were fired?
September the 2nd.
Okay. So it's been just over a week now.
Mm-hmm.
And have you received any kind of follow-up? Have you tried to follow up and kind of have a redress or have an appeal or anything?
No, I didn't. It just goes to show you how unimportant and unvaluable you are when they'll fire you for nothing.
Right.
Why would I want to work there?
Well, that's fair. But it can be a hardship for a family, sure. So, but I really think it's brave of you that you were willing to stand up and have these conversations, because right now in this atmosphere, when we have this dictatorial mindset of you get in line with the government official line, the party line, like that we were in the Soviet Union.
Yeah,
Otherwise, you are going to lose your family's livelihood. It's hard to find people willing to stand up during this time, and so I think it's great to have an example like yourself that's willing to stand up and just have the free speech like we're supposed to be able
supposed
to
to
have
have,
those rights protected.
for sure.
And so I really appreciate you willing to talk about it and to stand up, and we really hope that you'll be able to find something else that can help your family out. And if any of our viewers have any leads for you, feel free to contact us and we'll do that. But we wish you the best of luck in that. Anything else you'd like to share with folks? Anything that they should do?
Yeah, I mean, I just, it's the craziest thing right now. I mean, we're choosing policy over people. We're choosing, to abuse these children for what reason? To
Government
save them from
zombies.
a virus that's not going to kill them?
Right. Literally.
Makes no sense.
It's craziness. Well, I know it's, like I can see that it's, affected you, it's, of course, how could it not? And so we just, our prayers are with you, and we appreciate you standing up. And if there's anything else that we can do to support your efforts, let us know.
Thank you. I appreciate
Yep.
it.
All righty. It's Siri Davidson again, and we'll have the links. And if anybody, we'll have the name of the school and the name of the director there. If anybody wants to have their opinions known, or share with the director of that school their opinions, that's always welcome, of course. And we'll go ahead and sign off for this time. I'm Ben McClintock from defendingutah.org.